Welcome back to McCarthy Performance. We will be cutting the tops of these pistons down. The reason being is that this is a fairly fresh build, and the pistons are in pretty decent shape. There's a little bit of side thrust on them, but nothing major. I mean, they're coated, and nothing seems to be really sticking out saying, we need to buy a new set of pistons. So we're going to cut these, and I'm going to cut them down because they're 14 thousandths up out of the hole, and he wants to adjust his compression ratio. Being that they are in the hole, putting them in the hole by taking a little bit more material off of them, it's going to allow him to go through the range of thickness of head gaskets and get closer to where he wants to be. He's really not that far off, but being that they're up out of the hole, it really kind of screws with the availability of chromatic head gaskets. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to cut them down, and we'll get going on them. Okay, I've got the piston degreed in for the head. As close as I'm going to get it. It's within probably 2 thousandths. There's a little bit of carbon here, so that might be giving me a little bit of false reading, but I'm going to call that close enough. When they machine them tops and pistons, sometimes there's a little step over on them. So, okay, I've got this pretty much set up. We're going to take a real light cut and see how it goes. Pretty much going to be a carbon scraper. I set it up and I lightly turn the head till I seen some of the carbon scrape off the piston top. So that should be maybe a little bit above zero, but by a couple of thousandths. We're looking to take 12 thousandths off the tops of these pistons. I don't have much tip on the cutter. It's probably maybe a thousandths worth of back cut on it at best. Tops of these are never perfectly flat from the factory. Of course, they've been run, so we're taking a little bit off. Not very much to speak of. So we're going to call that zero. Pretty much just took the carbon off that side and scraped the quench a little bit, but not by much. I think we're going to call that 1/1000. We're going to set some 1/1000, and we're going to cut 12 off. So we're going to take 11 off. So we're going to call that 1/1000. We're going to set up for 5 right there. Okay, so we're setting up, cutting the rest of the pistons. I marked my pin, so if there's any deviation in it, it's going to go back the same. And there isn't, but it's just to make sure that everything goes back, trying to get some repeatability out of it. We're within probably 1/1000 right now. That I'm going to probably call it good and start cutting on this one. I'm going to check it again. Yep. So we're going to back it off. Set the cutter on here and start cutting. Put the Bridgeport back into gear. I knock it out of gear so I can spin the quill. I used to cut a lot of pistons back, 10 years ago. Kind of got away from this a little bit. I don't mind doing it. Of course, the more you do it, the more you learn, and the more you learn, the quicker it'll go usually. But try not to rush too much, get too excited. Bad things can happen, it seems like. If it took you a whole day just to cut one piston, that would be a lot. But once you get your routine down and you get accustomed to doing it the way that you can have repeatability. It's, you know, you can look at it as a loss of time and hours, but it's actually a learning experience, you know. And some experiences, you know, you get to learn sometimes takes longer than others. You know, if you're doing this on the side, it's not such a big deal. If you're trying to make money on it, then that can be a problem. But, you know, some of this stuff takes time to learn, and it's not impossible to learn. I can do it. So we want to make sure we're backed all the way off. And when I engage the table for power feed, it's going to jump. Usually jumps a little bit, so always make sure that wherever your cutter is, that when you engage the table, it's not going to jump into the workpiece. Okay, I've been cutting them all, pretty much going this way. So that's the way we're going to go. And we'll get her a little closer to the cutter here. You want to take a little bit off at a time with this because, you know, this isn't 100% rock solid, and if you try to get too greedy, you know, your setup is going to move. And it's harder on the tooling too if it's jumping around. So the cutters. So I had it in gear. I'm going to make one pass on it, just a light cut. I'm going to set the cutter at, I'm going to set the table at 0. Make sure we lock the table in so it doesn't do any of this on the machine. Back it off. That's a little light cut right there, probably about 3/1000ths, but we backed it off, so we're gonna start, when we just start cleaning the carbon off of that piston, or the little bit of oxidization that's on it. So as soon as we do that, then we're going to start at 0. Of course, I have the plunge gauge set up, so we're measuring it so we can get pretty darn accurate. But don't try to take too much off, because the piston can rock, then you'll lose your, you know, you'll lose your measurement as far as being precise on each one. So we're trying to strive repeatability. I was thinking, I cut so far 2 pistons, that there's enough space back here to put a machinist jack in there. Well, I don't have a machinist jack. What I do have is a planer gauge. And I don't know if you can see that, but I'll pull it out. So what I did is I adjust the planer gauge. Sure, no chips in there, but I adjusted the planer gauge so when I set it, it rests right on the skirt, the machine part of the skirt. And hopefully that's going to give me a little bit of stability. Like I said, I'm not taking very much off, so they're not rocking around. With that planer gauge in there, I think it'll hold it a little bit more square. Thought I'd add this to the video. Anytime I'm doing a job, I'm always trying to think of easier ways, better ways, and I think that's going to work out quite well. And I've got a few more pistons to cut, and we'll definitely know, but so far I'm taking about 3/1000ths off a pass. So I think with the planer gauge, it's going to allow me to take about 5 off a pass. And like I said, I don't want to push it, I don't want to rock the piston around, but with the planer gauge there, it's kind of a bump stop, if you would, to keep the piston from rocking around. Okay, we have a master here. This is pretty much where they're all going to end up being. Took 20 thousandths off this piston top here in the quench pad. And I have this gauge set up for the master, and right now it's saying we got to take about 12 thousandths off this piston. Okay, we're down to the last 5 thousandths, so we're going to set up a dial indicator off the table and take the last cut. Okay, we got 5 thousandths to go up. Stop just before 5. Gauge says 2 more. We'll stop there. We'll cut it. And if I have to go up another thou, I will, but I'd rather be under it than over it. Lock the knee and give her hell. Okay, this is the master piston that I cut down. We're gonna just do a quick CC on it. It looks like we were at 14, we're at 12 now, and we're down in the hole now, so I think we're gonna be able to hit the number he wants. Okay, we got all the pistons all done. I'm probably gonna I'm definitely going to deburr them, but I don't know if I'm going to buff them, polish them up on the buffing wheel. I use a black compound on the buffing wheel, and what it usually does is it breaks a lot of these edges that are hard to get, but you can do that with a Scotch-Brite or a DA. I started to break the edges on this one. So I might just do a Scotch, hit it with a file and some sandpaper, maybe a Scotch-Brite. I don't know if I'm going to buff them, but so they need to be prepped, but basically we got them all milled, and that one's thousandths under 0, and this one is about the same. Gotta make sure I'm not touching these. This one's got some junk on it. Yeah, this one's 2. So that one's a thousandths difference. That one's a thousandths. That one is thousandths. This one's a thousandths. This one's 0. So they're within 2 thousandths of an inch. Actually, probably less. This one, I don't know if I deburred it or not. There might be a little bit of an edge on that one, but that one there's a whole thousandths. Yeah, that one's a whole thousandths difference. So they're within acceptable range. So I guess that's going to finish this video up. Of course, once I buff these a little bit, things will change a little bit. I scraped these out really good. There was a lot of corrosion on some of them. Looks like that piston might have got replaced. Who knows? It was used race engine, but they were customs. So I don't know if they melted one out of it and they had 9 made, or usually on customs you always get more than 8. Well, thank you for watching. That's going to be it for this one.